Most people think business rivalries end in a price war, maybe a smear campaign on social media, or a slightly passive-aggressive sign in the window. But on Northbridge Road in Singapore, two restaurants took a 100-year-old grudge and turned it into a criminal conspiracy. You're looking at Singapore, Zam Zam, and Victory Restaurant. They sit side by side. They've been there since the early 1900s. And for over a century, they have been locked in a psychological battle for the soul and the wallets of every hungry person walking past their doors. But in 2015, the Murtabak War stopped being about who had the better recipe. It became about a machete, a secret society hitman, and a permanent scar that would change the Singaporean food scene forever. In this video, I'm going to show you how a dispute over touting escalated into a $2,000 contract for a man's face. And more importantly, I'll show you the exact moment the owner of a multi-million-dollar empire decided to throw it all away for a petty street grudge. Now, you might expect this to be a story about two angry chefs, but I'm going to give you something much darker. A look into the underworld of hospitality. To understand why this happened, you have to understand the invisible line. Imagine two shops. Identical menus. Identical prices. They are separated by a single wall. The sidewalk in front of them is the battlefield. In Singapore, there's a practice called touting. It's illegal, but it's the lifeblood of these shops. It involves standing on the sidewalk and practically dragging tourists into your seats before they can even look at the neighbor's menu. For 100 years, there was a cold peace, a balance of power. But in August 2015, that balance didn't just tip, it shattered. Meet Zackeer Abbass Khan. In 2015, he was the man running the legendary Zam Zam. He wasn't just a restaurant owner, he was a custodian of a landmark. But he had a problem. Next door, at Victory, was a supervisor named Liaquat Ali Mohammed Ibrahim. The rivalry between these two wasn't just professional, it was deeply, venomously personal. Zackeer became convinced of one thing. Liaquat was a rat. He believed Liaquat was calling the police and the authorities to report Zam Zam's touting tactics, trying to get them shut down so Victory could claim the entire sidewalk. But here is where the story takes a turn most people don't expect. Zackeer didn't call his lawyers. He didn't file a counter-report. Instead, he walked up to Liaquat in the middle of a busy street and delivered a chilling promise in Tamil. "I see how you will work here. Within 1 week, I will either hit or kill you." Most people would take that as a heated moment of anger, but Zackeer wasn't venting. He was announcing a plan. In most business disputes, the next step is a cease and desist letter. But Zackeer Abbass Khan was past the point of legalities. He had a problem, and in his mind, that problem had a name. Liaquat Ali Mohammed Ibrahim. But Zackeer was a businessman. He knew that if he did the deed himself, the empire of Zam Zam would fall instantly. He needed a buffer. He needed a middleman. Enter Anwar Ambia Kadir Maideen. Anwar wasn't just a friend of Zackeer. He was a man with connections. Specifically, connections to the Seo Kun Tong secret society, a criminal underworld element that most tourists eating murtabak just a few feet away didn't even know existed. To understand how a restaurant owner ends up in a prison cell, you have to look at the contract chain created in late August 2015. The client, Zackeer. The money. The broker, Anwar. The connection. The muscle, Joshua Navindran Saranthiran, the hitman. This wasn't a sophisticated operation. It was desperate. Zackeer allegedly offered a sum that seems shockingly small given the stakes. 2,000 Singapore dollars. Stop and think about that. The owner of one of Singapore's most famous culinary institutions was willing to risk a century of heritage for the price of a high-end laptop. This is what happens when obsession overrides logic. Before the blade ever came out, there was a psychological softening of the target. This is where the story gets even more sinister. On August 22nd, just 4 days before the main event, the victim Liakath was approached by Anwar and another man. They didn't attack him. They didn't rob him. They simply stood there and intimidated him, letting him know that his presence at Victory Restaurant was no longer tolerated. People who understand the psychology of intimidation know exactly what this was. It was a checkmate move. They were giving him one last chance to quit, to vanish, to leave the North Bridge Road battlefield. But Liakath didn't leave. He went back to work. And that decision to simply keep doing his job sealed the deal. On August 26, 2015, the sun began to set over the Rochor Canal. This is a busy area, filled with commuters and students. It is the last place you would expect a medieval-style slashing. You'd think a hitman would wait for a dark alley. You'd think they'd wait for a moment of total isolation. But Joshua, the hired muscle, was bold. Or perhaps he was just reckless. He tracked Liakath as he walked away from the restaurant toward Rochor Canal Road. Joshua wasn't looking to kill, not yet. He was looking to mark. In the world of secret societies, a scar on the face is a permanent badge of shame. It's a message that everyone can see for the rest of your life. But here is the question no one asked at the time. Did the hitman even know why he was doing it? Or was he just another cog in a century-old grudge he didn't understand? The moment happened in a flash. A confrontation, a glint of steel, and a 5-centimeter wound that would effectively end the Cold War and start the legal war. But as the hitman fled and Liakath clutched his face, Zackeer was back at Zam Zam, likely thinking his problem was solved. He thought he had bought silence for $2,000. He couldn't have been more wrong. Because the moment blood hits the pavement in Singapore, the story stops being a street dispute. It becomes a police case. And Singapore's criminal investigation system is not built for mysteries that stay unsolved. Within hours, investigators began reconstructing the chain. Not just the attack, the motive, the people, the money. Remember something about crimes like this. The man holding the weapon is almost never the most important person in the story. He's just the last link in the chain. And chains can be pulled backwards. First came the arrest of the attacker, Joshua Navindran Surenthiran, a known member of the Seo Kun Tong secret society. Once he was in custody, investigators started asking the only question that matters in a contract assault. Who sent you? From there, the chain began to unravel. Joshua led them to the broker, Anwar Ambia Qadar Maideen. And Anwar led them straight back to the source of the money, Zackeer Abbass Khan, the owner of Singapore Zam Zam. Think about the scale of that collapse. One moment, you are running a restaurant that has been serving murtabak for over a century. A place visited by tourists, celebrities, and generations of Singaporeans. The next moment, your name is appearing in police investigation files connected to a secret society assault. When the case finally reached court, the narrative was no longer about food. It was about intent, about intimidation, about the decision to solve a business rivalry with violence instead of law. Joshua, the man who carried out the attack, received a prison sentence and caning. Anwar, the broker who connected the deal, faced his own punishment for facilitating the assault. And Zackeer Abbass Khan, the man at the top of the chain, was sentenced for abetting the attack that left Liakath permanently scarred. But the real damage wasn't measured in years of prison. It was measured in reputation. Because restaurants don't just sell food. They sell trust. They sell history. They sell the illusion that the place you're eating is part of a proud cultural story. And once violence enters that story, it changes everything. For over a century, the rivalry between Zam Zam and Victory was a curiosity. Tourists would laugh about it. Locals would debate which Murtabak was better. It was part of the neighborhood's charm. But after 2015, that rivalry gained a darker footnote. A reminder that sometimes the most dangerous conflicts aren't political. They aren't ideological. They're personal. A grudge over a sidewalk. A suspicion about a phone call. An ego that couldn't accept losing a few customers. And when you zoom out, the entire tragedy becomes almost surreal. A 100-year business rivalry. A $2,000 contract. And a 5-centimeter scar that turned a culinary landmark into a criminal case study. But here's the final irony. The war for customers never really ended. Both restaurants are still standing. Still cooking. Still competing for the same line of hungry people walking down North Bridge Road. Except now, behind every plate of Murtabak, there's a story most diners don't know. A story about how far people are willing to go when pride, money, and reputation collide. And how sometimes, the most dangerous place in a city isn't a back alley. It's the business next door. And that's the part most people miss when they hear this story. They focus on the attack, the machete, the arrest, the courtroom. But the real lesson happened long before the blade was drawn. It happened the moment a successful businessman convinced himself that a rival employee was worth destroying his entire legacy over. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Rivalries like this exist everywhere. 2 restaurants on the same street. 2 companies fighting for the same clients. 2 people who can't stand seeing the other succeed. Most of the time, those rivalries stay petty. Cold stares. Passive-aggressive comments. Maybe a complaint to the authorities. But every once in a while, someone crosses a line they can't uncross. And when that happens, the fight stops being about business. It becomes about consequences. Zackeer thought he was solving a problem. Instead, he created one that followed him into a courtroom, into prison, and into the permanent history of one of Singapore's most famous restaurants. Meanwhile, the man who was supposed to be silenced survived. Scarred, but alive. And the scar became the exact opposite of what the attack was meant to achieve. Instead of erasing him from the street, it turned the entire incident into a public record. A reminder that violence has a way of exposing the very secrets it's meant to hide. Today, if you walk down North Bridge Road, you'll still see both restaurants. Still serving Murtabak. Still drawing crowds. Still competing for the same hungry tourists deciding which door to walk through. Most of those people have no idea what happened there in 2015. They just see 2 famous restaurants with a long history. But behind that history is a story about pride, about rivalry, and about how a $2,000 decision nearly destroyed a 100-year legacy. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. Because after everything that happened, after the threats, the attack, the arrests, and the prison sentences, the war for customers never really stopped. It just went back to what it should have been all along. 2 kitchens, 2 menus, and a line of people deciding which Murtabak is better.